spongebob my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I am your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 70th year of the award at the 74th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 2001. Today's guest is appearing for the 6th time. You last heard them discussing The Fly and the nominees of 1980. Please welcome back Eoin Daly. Hello, Eoin.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
It's an honor to have you back. You're one of our longest held guests. You were back there with the first decade, and so it's nice to keep bringing people back so they get to experience the full width of the category, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's definitely with each appearance, it's just kind of interesting seeing the way that animation changes throughout the decades, and now we're within almost 20 years from the current year. In discussing this lineup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like as of this recording, it's like we only have 21 episodes after this one, I believe, maybe 22 if we include the next Academy Awards. But yeah, we're definitely nearing the end of this era. It's like it's kind of exciting, kind of scary. But I'm excited to just get through it all. It's just like it's a achievement, to say the least.
Yeah, and it's kind of great to discuss this year because this is obviously the first year where the animated feature film category was also rewarded. So
Yeah.
It wasn't just shorts being awarded. So this is when the current animated category that is like a full category on the ceremony every year began.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great transition because before we get into the nominees, I wanted to introduce something new for the podcast to really tackle the best animated feature category. It's like while this podcast is mainly featuring shorts, well, it feels wrong to just not talk about the best animated feature, and I figure might as well. So, Eoin, I'm going to name the 3 nominees for best animated feature, and I want you to tell me in one word what you think of them. I'll just go one by one. You give me one word for your reaction. You ready?
Sure, I'll give it a go.
All right, so first we have the winner, which is Shrek.
Donkey.
Okay. Second, we have Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
I'm going to abbreviate 2 words together and say chicken dance.
All right. And third, we have Monsters, Inc.
Boo.
Great. Now let's move on to the actual nominees that we're here to talk about. Every year from this year onward has only 5 nominees. Our first nominee and the year's winner is For the Birds, directed by Ralph Eggleston. This is the first and only nomination and win for Eggleston, but the 4th nomination and 3rd win for Pixar, last winning for Jerry's Game in 1997. Eggleston is one of many Pixar animators and directors to come from Cal Arts. He got his career started by working on the show Amazing Stories, and he jumped around studios for a little bit, first working at Kroyer Films and then going to Walt Disney Animation, but eventually making a home for himself at Pixar. His niche at the company was mainly for environmental works, doing art direction and production design on many different films at the studio, starting with Toy Story and working all the way up to Soul. Though I can't find specific documentation about this, I suspect this was part of why he was selected to direct For the Birds, as one of the things they wanted to perfect with this film was animated backgrounds. Up to this point, the backgrounds for Pixar films tended to be static, but For the Birds features moments with the wheat fields that are ever so slightly moving with the breeze. But the main technology they wanted to improve with this film was feather animation. Jerry's Game had gotten skin down, and they were already working on fur with the feature film Monsters, Inc. Feathers is its own beast, and this was the only chance Eggleston was offered to direct a short or a feature, but he seems happy and passionate in his work. However, Eggleston sadly passed away only 2 years ago at the age of 56. May he rest in peace. The film Elemental is dedicated to him, as well as featuring a background Easter egg honoring him. If we may go back to For the Birds, the film is about a group of small birds fighting with each other as they each want to perch on a power line. Their infighting ends when they spot a much larger, much more awkward bird and start making fun of it. However, the large bird decides to perch on the line with them, pulling the whole line down and making all the birds even more frustrated. They try to get it off the line, but they overlook something when doing so. Owen, what did you think of For the Birds?
So this is the first time that I think I'd seen For the Birds. I mean, maybe I'd watched it when I was younger, watching like DVDs of Monsters Inc. But this is sort of like an interesting one to go to because I feel like I'm very familiar with the image of this short before having seen it, and I think the image of the short, which is obviously the poster, which is all the birds sort of dipping down on the telephone wire pole or telephone wire, is an interesting image that certainly stands out in the short. And I think it's a very simple short. It kind of gets to its point quite quickly and manages to like change up the story a bit in the short amount of time. And I found this really enjoyable. Um, I I love the animation here. The the bigger bird, him speaking sort of confused me a tiny bit. I was trying to make sense of the almost inaudible way in which he spoke because obviously the other birds mainly squawked like birds would. But that's, I guess, an interesting thing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I did like the way the big bird was speaking. It's just like because like whenever he did speak, it seemed almost like he was just talking like he normally chooses not to talk, but he likes to be part of the conversation, as it were. And so it's like he just mimics what the other birds are doing. Like when they're yelling at him for like just because he's annoying, it's just like he just squawks along with them. And like when he's like hanging off the power line and they're trying to like peck at his toes to get him to fall off, and they're all squawking like wah wah wah. He joins in, just like not really certain like what they're like talking about. Just like wah, wah. And I really like this one. I think this is a very charismatic film. I think is the best way to put it. It's just like it's very short. It doesn't have much of a story to it, like most of the Pixar films at this point. Right? They're just like very short, very simple stories, but there's just so much charm in every inch of this film. Just from the character designs to just the very simplistic world we find ourselves in. And it's just like I just really enjoy being in this world for a couple minutes as it's really nice. And yeah, there's not much to say about this one. It's just cute little film about birds on a power line. And I also want to say it's like I agree with you on the point, just like how iconic the image of this film is, because I feel like this is one of the ones that like gets like highlighted when you think of like a Pixar short. It's just like Jerry's Game is like an image that comes to your mind, and For the Birds is another image. It's like these are the ones that people really think of when you think of like the Pixar short films. And it's like I think it earns like its iconic nature, or not just because I really like the short, and not but I just think like I was saying, the designs on this film are just top tier. They're perfect for what this film is. I love the way the little birds and the big birds look. It's just all so good. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the little birds reminded me of the toys from Toy Story, the sort of alien creatures, and how they kind of came together as one unit. And even in the early stages of Pixar animation, they were able to get a lot of personality through the eyes, I feel like, of these little birds, which is not something that I'm used to seeing in a lot of early Pixar computer generated films because they're still discovering ways on how to animate and bring a lot of animation to the faces. But there was enough there for me to kind of get a sense of who these little birds were, even if they were just like a collective being.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's just like I like how each bird, like even though they are like kind of all the same, and like Like there are just like little details on the birds that like make them like distinct from each other, like either in terms of their personality, like the way they interact with the other birds, or there are like little details on them. Like I noticed the point where like when the bird when the big bird hangs on the power line, the other birds fall towards it. The two birds that are immediately next to the big one, it's like when they're about to like start pecking at his toes, it's like I noticed that one of the birds has a lot more scratches on its beak and the other one is a lot more clean. And it's just like that tiny ass detail I thought was just so fucking cool. Just like how they made sure to like while they are like the same like species, I guess they are different birds with their with little changes in their designs to show like different character or put more character into them rather than just being, oh, these are all like the same model of bird or whatever. They're different. It's it's fascinating.
Yeah, I noticed that myself. That little detail that you said about the birds' beaks, and it's definitely not something that's immediately announcing itself, but it is nice to sort of have that little detail there to make these characters sort of stand out, even if all they do is squawk and move up and down the power line, and then by the end lose all their feathers in a very humorous bit of animation.
And yes, and it's like it does the classic thing where he like looks down, he sees he's naked and grabs like a leaf from the big bird to cover himself with it. I love the way the big bird just laughs at him at the end, and it's just like it's it's so funny. I it's a very good ending.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, just really like this one. Pixar was just hitting them out of the park with every single film. It's like I don't think there was a nominee, a Pixar nominee so far that I haven't really liked yet. Next year there will be one, but so far it's just like I think Pixar just keeps hitting them out of the park. And and I guess this is why that they have their kind of winning streak that they got going on. Like I was saying, they have four nominations and three wins, with their only loss being their very first nomination. It's like good for them. It's like they're good for them. Anything else you like to say about this film?
No, nothing else to say about this film, but as a sort of preview, the positivities sort of end here.
Yeah, it's yeah, we are getting into lesser territory. just a just a hint there. But let's move on to our second nominee, which is 50% Grey, directed by Rudy Robinson. This is the first and only nomination for Robinson, as well as Seamus Byrne. Robinson started his film career as a CG animator, learning to love animation at the National College of Art and Design in Dublin, with his thesis film, The House on Dame Street. His very next film was today's Oscar nominee, and after this, he would make a living as a 3D animator and effects artist, most notably for the film Breakfast on Pluto, which got him in contact with actor Cillian Murphy, who would star in his next short and first live action film, The Silent City. Robinson would make a name for himself through his short films, often featuring elaborate effect sequences and sci-fi narratives, and these would help him get his foot in the door to make a feature film. He was originally attached to a live-action adaptation of Akira, working in pre-production for 3 years, but the project was dropped due to lack of funding. Then Robinson worked on a different film that did end up being made, called The Last Days on Mars, starring Liev Schreiber. Since then, Robinson has been trying to make another feature film, with his shorts Leviathan and Corporate Monster being made as proof of concept films, but as far as I can tell, he is still working to get another big project. Going back to today's nominee, 50% Grey is about a soldier who finds himself dead in an empty void, containing only a TV with a welcome message for him. Incapable of coping with the vast emptiness of death, he tries to kill himself with his gun, only to find himself in another similar void. So, I'm going to start out with positives. I like the concept of this. I think, and I kind of like the design of it too. I like this vast empty void. I like the idea. I just like films that kind of try to tackle the afterlife and things like that. But they're tricky films to do right. Because it's like, for just in comparison, like the film 9 Days that came out recently, I really like the concept for that, but it lost me as it went on. And like this one, it it has an interesting idea, but it doesn't really do much of it. It's only all of these shorts this year are very, very short. It's one of the shortest years I can think of, though I don't have data behind that. Uh, and this one is only 3 minutes long, barely longer than For the Birds. And so it's like what this short is just man finds himself in void, kills himself. He's in the void again, kills himself in the void, no bullets, the end. And it's like it's a nice story here, but I feel like it there's just all these it doesn't do enough with its concept. And it's like it's just too short. And the thing what else we have here is like I don't like the CG animation. I don't like the way the guy looks. I think he's just too ugly. Even though like maybe that's the point. Maybe he's supposed to be ugly. I don't know. Oh, and it's just weird. It's just a weird film, and not in a good weird, but just a weird. I don't really enjoy watching it, and I don't even really have anything really to say about it or think about it. It's just kind of exists. It just is what it is, and what it is not much.
Yeah, this I hated this. Um
Oh wow.
I yeah, I mean, I understand the sort of ambition of the story, but I think maybe a short wasn't the best way to tell it. It just sort of lived in the misery, and when it got to its end, I was like, this is what I mean, thankfully it was only 3 minutes long, but still I was like, why did I waste my time watching this? I didn't enjoy the animation. I didn't enjoy the story. I just didn't enjoy a single bit of it at all. So I kind of, yeah, I this was something that I'm glad I'll never have to watch again, because that's just how I feel about it.
What a start to the Irish in the best animated short category. Uh but yeah. And it's like I brought you on to this episode like not really for this one, but the next Irish short that we're covering, since this one does technically does somehow have two different Irish nominees in the same category. Like this one was just not so much fun, but definitely a surprise at least. So, but yeah, it's not very good. And it's like I do at least enjoy the different uh I like the videos and I like the little TV screen, and it's like it just plays like pretty much the same video on each different layer, but it's just like welcome to heaven, welcome to purgatory, welcome to hell. And it's like yeah, that's the biggest compliment I can really give this one.
I mean, I understand that, but I can't really see that as a compliment, mainly because that sort of storytelling has already been done with the death montage in Groundhog Day from a decade before. I think, I mean, obviously it's a live action film, but the montage that goes through of how the character kills himself in all these fun ways and wakes up to good morning, whatever the alarm does, just so does the story a bit better. While not the same thing, is definitely a much better option if I'm going to watch someone constantly kill themselves because they are living in a sort of void.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like a type of thing that's like it has definitely been done before, and it's definitely been done better. And it's just like there's just not much here. It's like you tried, Ruby. You tried, and that's all you can really say. And anything else you'd like to say about this before we move on?
Nothing else about this, but I will say his feature film Last Day on Mars I've seen and I did enjoy it.
Oh,
So I think it's a good thing to watch, and it gives a good Liev Schreiber performance. So I guess that's a positive I'll say, is that his live action film is really good.
yeah. I when I was like researching him, I saw that like a lot of people didn't like Last Day on Mars, but to hear somebody who's actually seen it like say it's good makes me a little more interested in it. But yeah, let's just move on to our third nominee, which is Give Up Your All Sins, directed by Cathal Gaffney. This is the first and only nomination for Gaffney, and the first but not final nomination for co-producer Dara O'Connell. Gaffney and O'Connell are co-founders of the Irish production studio Brownback Films, focusing on children's animation. The company got its start after the two men were kicked out of college, and they raised 2,000 Irish pounds to set up their business. Part of why they wanted to make their own studio was the fact that there was a lot of animation already in place in Ireland. In fact, Ireland had the largest animation industry in all of Europe, but all the companies were owned by Americans and Canadians, and none of the executives were Irish either. They originally made content exclusively for Irish television, including the series Pig and Why, but after the success of this Oscar nomination, the company grew larger and their shows began getting worldwide distribution and acclaim. They've made countless TV shows for young audiences, first starting with the show Olivia, and their most famous show is probably the Disney Junior show Doc McStuffins. Going back to Give Up Your All Sins, the film takes audio of Irish school children from the 1960s, and we hear one girl, Mary, tells the story of John the Baptist. Owen, what did you think of Give Up Your All Sins?
Well, of all these nominees, Give Up Your Old Sins is something that, I mean, it feels like wrong that you as a young Irish person born in the late 90s, early 2000s wouldn't have at least come across this once in your life. So I'm very familiar with this short, and while on this viewing it wasn't the most amazing thing, it just sort of has a place with me that I can't necessarily talk down on hating it entirely. So yeah, it's a tricky thing to talk about because I don't love it, I don't hate it, but I kind of have a connection with it because of how how Irish it is.
Yeah, it's just something that's been kind of like ever present in your life, and so it kind of it goes beyond having like any actual opinion on it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I, of course, didn't have that same experience. I'm just an American who has only watched this film because it was an Oscar-nominated animated short. Seen it once before, and I rewatched it for this. And it's like, but first of all, I want to say that like the image that's like on the poster with like the main girl like sticking her tongue out and everything. It's like for some reason that's just been burned in my mind. Maybe it's combined with just the title of it being spelled the way she says it rather than like the proper English spelling, I guess. As it's just like it's a short that sticks out in my mind. But watching it, it's like I'm not sure why it sticks out because it does the thing that a lot of the short film nominees do, which is just take audio of children and animate over it. And so as we hear this girl tell the story of John the Baptist, we see her talking and we also see her rendition of the John the Baptist story. And it's like that's kind of it. And it's like there's not much going on here. Or it's like and the animation itself it's fine. It's clearly like not the doesn't have the highest budget, but it's good for what it is, at least. And it's like I enjoy the character designs at least, but at the same time, it's just I have nothing really to say about this. It's just what it is. And that's it. I'm sorry.
No, and I mean, no, you don't need to apologize because I absolutely understand your criticism because it's something that I can absolutely understand someone feeling about it because while I do have this connection from it just based on my from where I'm from, I do have to agree that it's not the greatest thing ever. I mean its imagery stands out whether for good or bad reasons because I do think it's a lasting image, but I'm not necessarily sure if it's the most appealing image. The sepia brown animation coloring isn't necessarily my most favorite choice, but it just sort of has a little bit of a charm with it that keeps me sort of remembering this short throughout all the shorts that I've watched. But yeah, I can understand someone not feeling it that much because it's not the most amazing thing ever.
Mhm. And it's just like Yeah. And I guess I wasn't really apologizing to you. I was just apologizing to the listeners because it's like I want to talk more about these films, but this episode is just ending up where it's just like very simple opinion with like there's not much to read into with any of these. It's just, oh, birds on a power line. Oh, guy kills himself. Oh, girl talks about John the Baptist. And it's just like sure, maybe there are like deeper meanings in them, but it's also just like they don't really encourage the deeper readings either. It's just they're just kind of existing, and it's like I watch them, and then it's like okay, that was the short, and I kind of just like move on. It's just like I wish there was more I could say, but it's just this one was all right, and it's just like it's fine,
Yeah, no, I agree.
and
And
I
I think,
oh go ahead, sorry.
oh no, I don't really have anything else to say.
It's like I was just gonna say it's like the most interesting thing about this short is the cultural impact it's had like in Ireland and everything. And if I remember correctly, I think I saw in my research that uh it spawned like this whole series of shorts, maybe even a TV show, where it's just like they just do the same concept again with like other Bible stories, or it's just like other children talking about random things. Do you know anything about this?
Um, I don't, but it'll definitely be something I feel like I'm gonna have to look into now. I didn't know that there was an Irish version of Drunk History, but with children telling stories of biblical characters.
I mean, I I would like to see that. I'd like to see the children's drunk history. Hey, of course, like not them being drunk or anything, but I think, yeah, I think it'd just be fun to like other stories.
Yeah, no, of course, we don't need the stereotype of Irish people being drunk to be associated with children.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yeah. I'm just looking it up now, and it's like, yeah, it's we've got like the story of Lazarus making the blind see, the death of Jesus, story of Saint Patrick, and birth of Jesus. And so they made a few of these.
Well, I guess I have something to watch now after we finish discussing.
But yeah, I think we've run this well dry. Let's move on to our fourth nominee, which is Strange Invaders, directed by Cordell Barker. This is Barker's second and final nomination after The Cat Came Back, and this is the 28th nomination for the National Film Board of Canada, which finally puts them past Warner Brothers and makes them the second most nominated studio in the category's history, behind only Disney. Barker's biography is surprisingly sparse, even when considering how we've talked about his life before this. Yes, I can't find any information about what he's done between his last film from 1998 and now, outside of working on a TV series called Oh Canada. And after this, there isn't much more. He's made two other films, A Runaway and If I Was God, and was also hired to be a creative consultant at the NFB, though I can't even tell if he's still in that position. All that leaves for us to discuss is today's nominee. Strange Invaders is about a husband and wife who are envious of every other family having a bunch of kids. One day, a baby crash lands into their home from outer space, and they are overjoyed. However, parenting an alien baby isn't all they hoped it would be. And I'm going to start this off by saying, finally, there's a film that has more actual story to it, and we can actually like, dive into it a little bit because there's a lot that happens in this. It's like first we have just the husband and wife and their dog, and then the alien baby crashes into it, and then the baby like it's just kind of a menace, but also is building like a radio transmitter, and then it turns out to all be a dream, and it's just like I this is the most that happens in any of these shorts combined. And I like this one. I know that this is kind of a controversial nominee. I know that some of the other guests who have seen these films would, if they were on this episode, would have nothing but hatred for this film. But I thought this was funny. I like the little alien baby. I like the way the parents reacting to this. I love the dog, even though I hate that it gets left outside during the Canadian winter. Or I just think this is a really funny movie. And I also enjoy the little twist ending when it turns out to be a dream, just like about like the worries of like having kids or whatever. Or and it's like I think that's like a good message, I guess. It's a little saccharine, but I enjoy it. I'm a saccharine kind of person. But I think this is funny. I really like this one.
Um, well, I don't hate this one as much as 50%, but I don't love it. I kind of um the charm of the beginning sort of left me quite immediately when the film was more so getting into what the actual plot of it was, and I just wasn't entertained by this little child. And then while it was interesting for the twist ending of it being a dream, I was just sort of like questioning everything else that came before, and then just ending up with why.
Mhm.
Like it, I feel like there might have been a better way to kind of discuss the questions that a future parent might have, other than the way they did it in Strange Invaders.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think there's definitely better ways to tackle these questions, but I think just in its goal of being just a funny short about like parenting a rambunctious child or whatever, or I think it succeeds. And it's like, and something with like these it was all dream endings that some films try to do. It's just like it's always like oftentimes it can be a cop out, especially if you don't really understand why people do those it was all dream endings. Things. And it's like Wizard of Oz is of course like the prime example of like how to do a dream ending. And it's like the reason like Wizard of Oz works is because the fantasy sequence, the dream sequence, one, it's a really good sequence, takes up most of the movie. And also it also comments on the real world of like the outside of the dream world. Like the dream is commenting on Dorothy's life, her perception of her family and things like that. And for this one, it does a similar thing. The dream itself is commenting on our main characters, the father, the husband's fears of having a child and things like that. And it's like, and having all that preface to the final scene where it's just like his wife is telling him she's pregnant, and it's just like he starts to be afraid because of, the anxiety dream he just had, but then he sees like his wife's like her joy at the fact that she's about to have a child, and like he forgets all those fears and just be like yes, this is going to be a good thing. And it's just like he loves his wife and everything. And it's like, and also the scariest thing for him that happened in that dream was when his wife and dog left him, and because of how awful the baby was. And like that was the final straw for him to like go up and march into the baby's room. And that's when he finds out that the baby is making a radio transmitter or whatever. Or it's just like I think it really does the plot of this thing well.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, while I sort of question certain plot elements, I do think the animation had some standout sequences. Like I really enjoyed as the baby or whatever creature it was continued to become a menace. I love the sort of house spinning while everything is going wild in the house. I really enjoyed that image as
Mhm.
it kept going. And while I can agree with you that it sort of gets its point of that he feels lost without his partner and his dog. And it just sort of, by that point I was just kind of, my patience was tested with everything else that had happened, because I didn't find the peanut, it whatever child alien thing, that charming. And I just sort of, I just, I don't know, I just didn't relate to it. I just kind of was like waiting for it to be over.
Yeah, it just went a bit too long for you.
Yeah, which is not something that you usually say about shorts, but when the rest of these shorts are like 3 minutes long, it feels like it could be that same amount of time and still get the same point across.
Maybe if you had watched this with Boy, the Mole, Fox, and Horse, like just double featured those, it's like maybe maybe it'd be better in comparison.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need to watch that again.
For some reason, I just always bring that up on this show, just because it's like just so memorably awful in my mind, and so recent too. I guess it's fun. I just find it fun to talk shit about the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Yeah, we love when the worst nominee of a pretty incredible list wins.
Yeah, Michael Caine Insider House Rules.
Yeah.
But even then, I like Michael Caine more than I do the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Yeah. You're Helen Mirren and the Queen, but again, we like her
No,
more
Helen
than...
Mirren the Queen is the best one in the lineup.
Okay, we're gonna disagree on that, but that's a conversation for another day.
Actually, I can go on a tangent for a little bit. This episode's coming up a bit short. I want to remind myself what that lineup is, because I know Helen Mirren's my favorite, but I just want to know who I actually think she's better than.
You think she's better than Penelope Cruz in Voltaire?
Oh wait, my mistake. She's my second favorite. Judi Dench in Notes on a Scandal is my favorite. But I do think she's better than Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada. She's better than Penelope Cruz in Voltaire, and she's better than Kate Winslet in Little Children.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, but again, when it comes to Helen Mirren, I'm not her biggest fan in general. But she's easily fifth for me.
And
with my favorite also being Judi Dench.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Notes on a Scandal is such a good movie. I wish more people watched it nowadays. It's like it should be like a classic, but not that many people have seen it.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely more classic than you would have thought it was going to be at the time, but it could definitely do with being like appreciated by so much more people because it has so many good moments.
Oh yes, it's filled to the brim with just iconic moments. It's it's
Yeah.
Oh my god. I don't want this to become the Notes on a Scandal podcast. But
I mean, maybe when you get to the modern age of animated short, maybe that's the way to go. Is Notes on a Scandal discussing every single second.
we just need to make we just pretend that Notes on a Scandal is actually like 4 short films, and then we're good.
Exactly. Like you could discuss the confrontation scene with the famous line, "You wanna fuck me, Barbara?" Or you could discuss the great scene where what is it, where Judi Dench's cat dies and she shows up at Kate Blanchett's house and she's like, "I know the adolescent boy. Believe me, I know." I can't really do the lines. Sorry for all the English people that I've just offended.
God, it's such a good movie. Anyway, Penelope Cruz has never deserved an Oscar. Our 5th and final nominee is Stubble Trouble, directed by Joseph E. Meredith. This is the first and only nomination for Meredith, and while this should be a person that is incredibly hard to find information for, I think I can piece together a history for him. Meredith got his start at Calabash Animation, which I can find no information about outside of a list of credits on IMDb. However, shortly after his Oscar nomination, Meredith went freelance. I can tell from his LinkedIn page that he is really not tied down to anywhere, but he seems to be based in Chicago. He's done animation and other work on films like The Box Trolls, Klaus, Green Eggs and Ham, and some Looney Tunes projects. His most recent entry on that LinkedIn page is with something called Every Holdings, which I believe makes slot machines and other gambling devices. The most fun thing I find about him is that he used to teach at the Art Institute of Chicago, which means that I can look him up on Rate My Professor, and sure enough, he taught Animation 100 and has 2 ratings that are both very positive, calling him a wonderful person, incredibly talented, one of the best teachers I've ever had, and made me believe in art again. High praise, and let's see how the short film lives up to his reputation. Stubble Trouble is about a caveman who really wants a girl to like him. However, she doesn't like his stubble and goes with another man. Hijinks ensue as he tries his best to shave, but his stubble keeps coming back supernaturally fast. Owen, what did you think of our final nominee?
Well, I'll quickly say I almost watched the wrong Stubble Trouble. Um, for some reason, there's another animated short kind of about these two friends who could grow beards. I don't know why, but anyway, back to this Stubble Trouble short, the actual nominated one. It was fine. I just sort of nothing really like it was definitely weird to see stubble grow that quickly. And then the way it reaches end, I had some questions because it just sort of came out of nowhere with this sort of. I questioned a lot of things. I questioned the size. I for a second there I thought he had fallen in love with some Amazon woman who happened to be like 12 stories high or something. But then when he stood beside her, they were quite, I don't know, she just seemed like this giant creature sort of come out of nowhere. But yeah, it was just sort of meh. I the ways that he found to shave off his stubble went far further than I thought it was going to. So I'll give it that. But it just sort of, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't get much from this.
I find that this film is kind of the opposite of 50% Gray, where I think this is a terrible concept, but for what it does the concept surprisingly well. It's like I think this whole joke about like, oh, the stubble grows really fast and so no one likes him is like really just not a good idea. And the fact that it's set in caveman times makes no real sense, especially since I don't think they really shaved back then. But anyway, this one I it but somehow I think the film does this kind of okay. It does a like I really like the animation here. I think it does some really creative ways to get this guy to shave. I like you were saying, it's like it does some creative jokes and like really enjoy the ending where it's just like he just meets this giant woman with this really long beard who likes his stubble and they just go off together or and it's like yeah, that's a nice ending. I like that ending. And also, I wish that were me. But it's just like this whole concept just isn't funny. And it's like, and the fact that he would go through all of this just for some random woman who clearly likes somebody else better than him, probably not just because he doesn't have facial hair, but other reasons too, is just like why is this the concept here? Why did you make this film and not something better when you clearly could have made something better? Why is this your only idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to solve his stubble problem would have been for him to be on the telephone wire with the big bird because clearly um that's the way to get rid of hair and feathers and whatnot.
Yeah, just like the dinosaur stands on the telephone, the whatever the caveman, the Flintstones version of a telephone wire would be, and just like just flick him up. It surely would get all his hair off him lickety split.
Exactly. But yeah, no, the concept is really sort of one note and nothing much is really gotten from it other than, oh, this caveman needs to shave. Let's basically go around in circles and not even because you quickly don't see the girl he's interested in after the first time he tries to shave, where it's like, why do we care about this sort of relationship that he wants? But as you said, clearly she doesn't want because she's interested in someone else. And I agree, not necessarily because he has a clean shaven face, which is something that you have to question a caveman would have at this time.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
he also has a very pronounced the guy she likes has a very pronounced chin, and I think that's part of it too. Meanwhile, this guy, his chin is very like recessed, and it's like I think just there's just no saving him. Like she's not gonna like you, dude. Just be happy, and at least he gets the happy ending with another girl who likes him. But it's also a bit fantastical too.
Yeah, exactly. She just, I mean, he clearly gets off better with the better girl as far as the animation is telling us, even if she does has this very long beard. If anything, the sort of fanciful girl that comes up at the end shouldn't take him because clearly he can't grow a beard as magnificent as she does.
I,
But
I think
alas,
I think that she doesn't want a man who will upstage her. Like she is a tall queen looking for her short king, and she doesn't want anybody who would upstage her in any fucking way. And it's just like she has her magnificent beard, he has his shitty stubble, and that's why they're happy together.
okay, I'll give you that. Because obviously that's what this short is all about, is should be about, is this magnificent red-headed, bearded, tall queen.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, this short is T for T propaganda. I'm just gonna say put that out there. That's all he needed. That little giggle. That's everything. Uh, anything else you'd like to say about this?
No, I mean the film didn't really want to say much, so I don't have much to say about it.
Yeah, it's just a nice little comedic short that for some reason I don't hate. It really shouldn't like it because, like I said, the concept is so intrinsically not funny. But by God, Joseph E. Meredith tries his best to make it funny. And we're going to leave off with that. And so now that we've talked about the 5 nominees, we will rank them all. Owen, start us off with your number 5.
So my number five, no surprise, is 50% Grey, which is something that I'm glad I'll never have to see again.
And my number 5 is Give Up Your All Sins, which, like, it's fine. I actually didn't. I was surprised that I didn't end up hating any of these, but I, yeah, that's just about it. It's it's what it is. Number 4.
My number four is Strange Invaders. Again, the long running time just sort of tested my patience, and I'll not remember much about this short really.
Mm-hmm. My number 4 is 50% Gray, which, like I was saying before, it's a fine concept, but just does absolutely nothing. Number 3.
My number three is Stubble Trouble, which, while um nicely animated in terms of like sequences, it just sort of was meh overall.
Mm-hmm. My number 3 is also Stubble Trouble. It, like I was saying, it's surprisingly not bad, which is weird to say for a third ranked film, but it's where we are with this year. Number 2.
My number two is Give Up Your All Sins. Not necessarily the greatest thing, but my history connection with it sort of put it high on the list of these runner-ups.
Mhm. My number 2 is Strange Invaders, which I just thought was a funny short. I thought it was well made. I enjoyed it. Number 1, which we seem to agree on.
Yeah, number one by a long country mile is For the Birds.
Yeah, it's no question that this is the best one. Like the Academy made the easiest fucking choice there was. It's like in some years, especially like with best animated feature category, it's like they just default to the Pixar nominee when there's other better films, and it's like, but here the Pixar one's just easily the best one.
Exactly.
It's like I wouldn't be surprised if this year has like one of the widest vote margins in this category.
No, I
But
wouldn't be surprised too.
yeah, that's our rank. Hey, it's a certainly an interest. It's a strange year we have here. Just a bunch of very short films, most of which are mediocre, and that's all there really is to say about it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I somehow this year's shorts managed to beat the first year that I discussed with you in terms of like overall quality, even though my winner pick is easily better than anything that we discussed that first year. But yeah, not a great list.
Try to remind myself what our first year was. Oh, the tortoise and the hare. Yes, tortoise and the hare. Holiday Land and Jolly Little Elves. That's right. That's the year of the fucking donut dipping song.
Yeah, somehow this year's list of films is worse than Holidayland and Jolly Little Elves, which I did not enjoy at all.
True. I feel like I've given you some. I've been kind of mean to you of some of the years I've given you. Like at least I gave you like 1940, which had Tom and Jerry and Bugs Bunny. And
Yeah, and you let me discuss your favorite animated short of the whole history of the
yes,
category with
I did.
The Telltale Heart.
I yeah, that was actually the first time I felt bad about the years you were given, and so I gave you the year with Telltale Heart, which is one of the which is the as of this recording, I still have a few shorts I need to rewatch, but it's currently my favorite nominee in the whole category. So yeah, but then after that I gave you Winnie the Pooh also, so that was a fun year. But then
Yeah, that was a good year.
with 1980 and this year, it's like I need to make it up to you soon.
Well, you have another 20 years to make it up to me before the series comes to its end. So I'm sure there's a list of films that I could enjoy to discussing overall.
Yeah. Or maybe in the post animated short era, I'll give you a good year for you to talk about some films you really like. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll think of something.
I mean, maybe we'll need to get into this 2006 actress discussion so we could discuss our disagreements.
Yeah, when we talk about the 4 Notes in a Scandal short films, I'll bring you on.
As long as the fifth nominee is the cerulean speech, we can be good.
But before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Owen, or anything you'd like to promote?
Um, Nothing to promote at the moment, but thank you again for having me on. Even if it wasn't the most amazing set of films to discuss, it's always great to discuss animated films because it gets me to watch them, which sadly I've sort of been not watching them as constantly as I used to at the beginning of the series, but I hope to soon, when I have more time, get back on catching up with all the nominees that you discussed. And I think the 30 years of the shorts that I've not caught up on.
Yeah, you've got time. It's just like like in terms of just like my upload schedule, we're only in the 90s right now. Oh, it's like, and this episode is coming out. Let's see, December 14th, so over a month away. Hey, it's like other episodes have been recorded like 3 months in advance. So you've got time. You don't need to worry about things for a while. But yes, thank you again, Owen, for coming on the show, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the Short Podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.